They thought no one would come. Then humanity descended with a roar of thunder. Part 1. When hope dies in silence. The crystalline libraries of Cathara Prime gleamed softly in the light of their twin suns, casting rainbow patterns across the scholarly halls where generations of peaceful beings had gathered knowledge from across the galaxy. Elder Mithras stood at the great observation dome, his forearms trembling as he watched the dark fleet approaching their homeworld like a plague of locusts against the star field. The Cathara had always believed that knowledge was the greatest weapon. That understanding could overcome any conflict. Their entire civilization had been built on this foundation. They were teachers, philosophers, and keepers of wisdom. Their libraries contained the collected knowledge of over 300 species, freely shared with anyone who sought to learn. They had never built weapons because they had never believed they would need them. That innocence was about to cost them everything. The first reports had come 3 days ago from their outer research stations. The Void-born Empire, a nightmare civilization from the darkest reaches of space, had begun their advance into Cathara territory. These creatures were the opposite of everything the Cathara represented. Where the scholars sought to preserve and share knowledge, the Void-born consumed and destroyed it. They turned entire worlds into barren wastelands, erasing all traces of the cultures they conquered. Elder Mithras called out communications specialist Lyring, her usually melodic voice now strained with fear. "We're receiving the final transmission from Research Station Omega-7. Mithras closed his golden eyes and steadied himself. Omega-7 housed some of their most brilliant scientists, beings who had dedicated their lives to understanding the mysteries of the universe. He nodded for Lyring to play the message. The voice that crackled through the speakers belonged to Dr. Kelling, the station's chief researcher. "This is our final log. The Void-born ships ... They're not just destroying our facilities. They're taking our research, our data cores, everything we've learned over the past century. They're stealing our knowledge, and then they're killing everyone who helped create it." The transmission dissolved into static, then silence. Another beacon of Cathara wisdom had been extinguished forever. Mithras walked to the central communication array, where dozens of his people worked frantically at crystalline interfaces, sending desperate pleas across the galaxy. Their gentle faces were marked with exhaustion and growing despair. For 2 days, they had broadcast their situation to every major civilization in known space, begging for assistance, offering to share their most precious knowledge in exchange for military protection. The responses, when they came, were all variations of the same cruel theme. The Altarian Federation, with their mighty star fleets, claimed that ancient treaties prevented them from interfering in what they termed regional disputes. The Centauri Alliance spoke of economic considerations and the need to protect their own trade routes. The Zelanian Empire offered sympathy, but insisted their forces were committed elsewhere. Even the smaller civilizations that the Cathara had helped over the centuries found reasons to decline their desperate requests. "Status report from all sectors," Mithras called out, though he dreaded what he would hear. "Research Colony Beta-3 has gone silent," reported Tactical Analyst Vurin, his 4 eyes dim with sorrow. "Colony Gamma-12 transmitted an emergency beacon 6 hours ago, but now ... nothing. What about the major powers? Any response to our latest transmission?" Lyring shook her head sadly. "The Galactic Council acknowledges our messages, but states they cannot authorize military intervention without a unanimous vote. The Andromedan Collective sends their regrets. The Stellar Consortium says the matter is under review, but warns that any assistance would take months to organize. Months. They had perhaps 18 hours before the Void-born fleet reached Cathara Prime. Mithras activated the long-range sensors and watched as the enemy armada approached their solar system. 60 massive ships, each one a floating fortress of destruction. The void-born vessels were grotesque things, their hulls covered in spikes and adorned with the wreckage of their previous conquests. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never encountered prey that could fight back. The elderly scholar thought about his people's history. The Kithara had evolved from creatures that lived in vast underground cavern systems, where cooperation and sharing of resources meant survival. Violence had been bred out of them over millions of years. They had no understanding of warfare, no concept of military strategy. Their defense platforms were designed to deflect asteroids and cosmic debris, not warships. "Elder," called out young apprentice Jorik, his voice barely a whisper. "The void-born commander is broadcasting. Should we listen?" Mithros nodded grimly. "Put it through the main speakers." The voice that filled the communication center was like the sound of grinding stone mixed with the screams of the dying. The void-born spoke in their native tongue first, a harsh language that hurt to hear, before switching to Galactic Standard. "Pitiful creatures of the crystal world, I am Destroyer Vexroth of the void-born Ninth Fleet. Your pathetic calls for help have provided entertainment for my crew. No one comes to save you because you are weak, and the galaxy respects only strength. We will take your precious knowledge, and then we will take your lives. Your species will be forgotten within a generation." The transmission ended, leaving only the hum of equipment and the distant sound of weeping from the younger staff members. Mithros walked slowly back to the observation dome and looked out at his beautiful world one last time. The crystal cities sparkled like jewels in the afternoon light. Gardens filled with flowers from 100 worlds created tapestries of color across the landscape. Flying vehicles moved peacefully between the towers, carrying citizens who still believed somehow that salvation would come. He activated his personal recording device, knowing that these might be the last words any Kithara would ever speak. "I am Elder Mithros of a Kithara collective. In approximately 16 hours, my people will cease to exist. The Voidborn come to destroy us, and we have no power to stop them. We have asked every civilization we know for help, and we have been abandoned." His voice remained calm despite the weight of absolute despair. Around him, the communication center had grown quiet, except for the soft sounds of his staff trying to contact family members across the young planet. "We do not record this message to assign blame. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and every species must consider its own survival first. We understand this even as we die because of it. Instead, we record this as a testament to what we were and what we believed." He paused, looking at the data crystals that contained the accumulated wisdom of his people. Literature, science, philosophy, art, the treasures of 1,000 generations that would soon be stolen or destroyed. We believed that knowledge was sacred. We believed that sharing wisdom made the universe a better place. We believed that intelligence and curiosity were more powerful than violence and hatred. Perhaps we were naive. Perhaps we were wrong. But we do not regret choosing the path of peace, even if it has led us to this end. Mithros thought about the children in the schools below, learning about distant stars they would never visit. He thought about the researchers in their laboratories, working on discoveries that would now never benefit anyone. He thought about the artists and poets, the teachers and healers, all the gentle souls who had made Kithara civilization something worth preserving. If there are others like us out there, others who believe in the power of knowledge over force, do not let our fate discourage you. The universe needs dreamers and thinkers, not just warriors and conquerors. Do not let the Voidborn win by making you like them. He looked directly into the recording crystal, knowing that his words might be the only thing that survived of his people's legacy. To those who could not help us, we forgive you. To those who chose not to help us, we hope you never face what we face now. And to those unknown beings who might hear this message in the future, remember us not as victims, but as a people who chose to build rather than destroy. to share rather than hoard, to hope rather than despair. Asterisk, the recording ended, and Mithros began the process of uploading it to the long-range communication array. The message would be broadcast on all frequencies, sent to every listening post and communication relay within 1,000 light years. Perhaps someone somewhere would remember the Kithara and what they stood for. As the message launched into space, carrying their final testament to the stars, the tactical displays began showing the first Voidborn scouts entering their solar system. The enemy fleet would arrive by dawn, and by sunset, Cathara Prime would be nothing but ash and memory, but in a small communications bunker halfway across the galaxy, on a blue-green world called Earth. A young technician named Maria Santos was monitoring deep space transmissions when something unusual crossed her screens. The message was in Galactic Standard, which was rare for communications directed toward human space. Even rarer was the emotional weight in the alien speaker's voice. She listened to Elder Mithros's final testament with growing horror and admiration. Here was a species facing extinction with dignity and grace, asking not for revenge, but for remembrance. As the message ended, Maria sat in stunned silence for a moment before reaching for her emergency communication device. "Priority alert to Fleet Command," she said into the transmitter. "We have a situation that requires immediate attention. Far above Earth's surface, Admiral Jackson Hayes was reviewing routine patrol reports when the emergency communication came through. He was a veteran of the Centauri Wars, a man who had seen too much death and destruction to be easily moved. But as he listened to the Kithara's final message, something stirred in his chest that he thought had died years ago. Hope. And with it, rage at a galaxy that would let innocents die while the strong watched from safety. Hayes activated his secure communication line to Fleet Command. "This is Admiral Hayes, requesting immediate audience with the Defense Council. Priority Alpha." The response came back within minutes. "Request denied, Admiral. The Kithara situation has been reviewed and rejected. Earth's neutrality policy is non-negotiable. We will not risk human lives for alien politics." Hayes stared at the communication panel for a long moment, then activated his ship's intercom. "All senior staff to the briefing room. Emergency meeting in 10 minutes. As he walked through the corridors of the EDF Thunderbolt, Hayes thought about his own childhood during the Resource Wars, when Earth had stood alone against alien invaders. He remembered hiding in shelters while the sky burned, remembered the taste of fear and the feeling of abandonment when no help came from the stars. He remembered the oath he had sworn when he first put on the uniform of the Earth Defense Force. To protect the innocent, wherever they might be. The briefing room filled quickly with his senior staff. Captain Lisa Park, his tactical officer and oldest friend. Commander David Chun, the ship's engineer who could work miracles with duct tape and determination. Major Sarah Rodriguez, the Marine commander who had never lost a boarding action. These were people he trusted with his life, people who had served with him through 3 major conflicts. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hayes began, "we have a situation. There's a peaceful species called the Kithara facing extinction from something called the Void-born Empire. They've asked the galaxy for help and been refused by everyone, including us." He played Elder Mithros's message for them, watching their faces change from professional interest to horror to determination. These were warriors who understood the cost of violence, but they also understood the price of inaction. "Sir, Captain," Park said quietly, "what are you thinking?" Hayes looked around the room at the faces of his crew. "I'm thinking that sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same. I'm thinking that if we let these people die without even trying to help, we become everything we swore to fight against." Commander Chun leaned forward. "Admiral, 1 ship against 60 Voidborn dreadnoughts? It's suicide." "Maybe," Hayes agreed. "But what if it's not? What if there's a chance? And even if we can't save them all, maybe we can give them hope." Maybe we can show them that someone in this galaxy still believes in doing the right thing. The room fell, silent as each officer considered the implications. They were talking about disobeying direct orders, risking their careers and their lives for people they had never met. They were talking about starting a war with an empire that had crushed dozens of civilizations. Major Rodriguez spoke first. "Admiral, if you order it, my Marines will follow you into hell itself." One by one, the others voiced their agreement. They knew the risks, understood the consequences, but they also remembered why they had joined the Defense Force in the first place. Hayes activated the ship's communication system. "All hands, this is the Admiral. We have received a distress call from an innocent species facing genocide. Command has ordered us not to intervene. I am hereby disobeying those orders and taking the ship to render assistance. Anyone who wishes to transfer off may do so at our next supply stop. For those who stay, you should know that we're probably flying into a fight we can't win, against an enemy that shows no mercy." He paused, thinking about the words of the alien elder, about the choice between safety and conscience. But sometimes, the measure of who we are isn't found in the fights we can win, but in the ones we choose to fight anyway. If we're going to die, let's die as humans, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Thunder from the stars. Hyperspace jump from Earth to Kaya space normally took 6 days for a single ship. Admiral Hayes pushed the EDF Thunderbolt's engines past their safety limits, making the journey in 4.5 days. The ship groaned under the stress, but Commander Chun's engineering team worked miracles to keep everything functioning. During the journey, Hayes received a constant stream of angry communications from Earth Command, ordering him to return immediately. Each message was more threatening than the last, promising court-martial, imprisonment, and disgrace. He deleted them all without reading past the first few lines. Some things were more important than careers. As they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cathara system, the tactical displays immediately showed the devastating scope of what they faced. 60 massive void-borne ships had formed a blockade around Cathara Prime, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The beautiful crystal cities of the Cathara homeworld were already burning in several places, orange flames spreading across the pristine surface like an infection. "Captain Park," Hayes said quietly. Analysis. His tactical officer studied the enemy formation with the eye of someone who had spent 20 years learning how to kill things efficiently. "Sir, those ships are massive. Each one is at least 3 times our size, heavily armored, designed for planetary bombardment rather than ship-to-ship combat. But Admiral, they're arranged in a siege formation. They're not expecting a mobile threat. What about their technology? Energy weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams. Nothing we haven't seen before, just more of it. Their ships are slow, designed to overwhelm through brute force rather than maneuverability." Hayes nodded. "How long? Until they complete their bombardment?" "At their current rate of fire. Maybe 6 hours before the surface is uninhabitable. 6 hours to save an entire species." Hayes activated the communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. "Void-borne vessels, this is Admiral Jackson Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to cease your attack on the Cathara homeworld immediately. Withdraw from this system or face the consequences." The response came quickly, a harsh voice speaking in accented Galactic standard. "Unknown vessel, I am Destroyer Vexrath of the Void-borne Ninth Fleet. You will retreat immediately or be destroyed. This world belongs to us now." "I don't think so," Hayes replied. "All ships, prepare for combat. Target their command vessel." "Sir," Commander Chun's voice came over the intercom. "I'm reading 14 more ships dropping out of hyperspace." They're human ships, sir." Hayes turned to the main screen in amazement as Earth Defense Force vessels appeared around them. The cruiser Defiance, the destroyer's courage and determination, frigates and support ships. 15 vessels total, all broadcasting the same message. Captain Elena Vasquez of the Defiance appeared on his communication screen. "Admiral, you didn't think we'd let you have all the fun, did you?" "Elena, you disobeyed orders to come here?" "Damn right we did. When word spread about what you were doing, half the fleet wanted to come along. We drew straws to see who got to join the suicide mission." Hayes felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. "Welcome to the party. Hope you brought your dancing shoes." The human fleet formed up quickly, 15 ships against 60. On paper, it should have been a massacre. But Hayes had learned long ago that wars weren't won on paper. All ships. "This is Admiral Hayes. We're going to use Formation Delta 7, modified for heavy engagement. Hit and run tactics. Use our speed and maneuverability advantages. Target their weapons systems first, engines second. We're not trying to destroy them all. We just need to break their blockade and give the Kithara breathing room." The battle began with the humans doing something no Void-born commander had ever experienced. They ignored the largest, most threatening ships and went straight for the formation's weak points. The Thunderbolt and her escorts dove into the enemy fleet like wolves attacking a herd, targeting supply ships and support vessels. The Void-born, accustomed to enemies who met them head-on in traditional battle formations, were caught completely off guard. Their massive weapons were designed to destroy fortifications and large ships, not fast-moving frigates that darted between their hulls like angry wasps. Asterisk Commander Chon worked miracles in the engine room, coaxing impossible performance from human technology. The Thunderbolt danced through enemy fire that should have vaporized her, her weapon systems firing continuously as she targeted the Void-born flagship's communication arrays. "Direct hit on their command ship," Captain Park called out. "Their fleet coordination is breaking down." The human ships fought with a coordination that came from years of drilling together. But more than that, they fought with the desperate fury of beings who remembered what it felt like to be helpless. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer pushed their equipment past its limits because they knew that failure meant the death of an entire civilization. Major Rodriguez's Marines proved their worth when 3 human ships managed to disable and board a Void-born supply vessel. The aliens were unprepared for the savage close combat skills of Earth's warriors, and within an hour, the humans had captured enough intelligence about Void-born fleet operations to change the entire battle. "Admiral," Rodriguez reported over the communication link, her armor scorched from battle. "These things have been using the same tactics for centuries. They've never had to adapt because no one ever fought back effectively. Their ships are designed to work together in formation. If we can break that formation, they'll be sitting ducks." Hayes grinned fiercely. "All ships converge on coordinates 47 Mark 12. We're going to punch a hole right through their center line." The sea. 15 human vessels formed a spearhead formation and drove straight at the heart of the Void-born fleet. It was a move so audacious, so completely insane, that the enemy commanders couldn't believe what they were seeing. Ships that small simply didn't attack formations that large. But the humans had learned their warfare in the crucible of their own survival. They had developed their tactics while their homeworld burned around them, creating strategies that no other species had ever needed to discover. They fought not like conquerors seeking glory, but like defenders protecting everything they held dear. The spearhead punched through the Void-born formation, human weapons blazing at point-blank range. 3 enemy ships exploded in brilliant fireballs. 2 more lost power and began drifting helplessly. The carefully coordinated blockade dissolved into chaos as individual Void-born commanders tried to respond to threats from multiple directions. On the surface of Kithara Prime, Elder Mithros watched from his observatory as impossible things happened in the space above his world. The bombardment had stopped. The dark ships that had seemed invincible were burning and breaking apart. And through the carnage, 15 smaller vessels moved with deadly purpose, carrying hope on their hulls. "Who are they?" whispered Apprentice Jorik, staring at the tactical display in wonder. Mithros activated the communication system and broadcast on the frequency the unknown ships had been using. "Unidentified vessels, this is Elder Mithros of the Cathara Collective. Are you here to help us?" The response came immediately, a strong human voice cutting through the static of battle. "This is Admiral Hayes at the Earth Defense Force. We received your message, Elder Mithros. We're here to make sure your people have a future." Tears of pure gratitude flowed down the old scholar's face. Someone had heard their cry for help. Someone had come. The battle raged for 6 hours, human cunning and determination against void-born brute force. When it ended, 23 void-born ships were destroyed or disabled, and the remaining vessels were fleeing toward the edge of the system. The blockade was broken, and Cathara Prime was safe. But the victory had come at a cost. 3 human ships were lost, with others heavily damaged. The Thunderbolt herself was barely spaceworthy, her hull breached in a dozen places, her engines running on backup power. As repair crews worked frantically to keep the ship together, Admiral Hayes received a communication from Earth Command. The message was brief and to the point. He was relieved of duty, charged with mutiny, and ordered to return to Earth immediately for court-martial. Hayes deleted the message without bothering to respond. He was too busy reading the reports from the Cathara surface. The scholars were already working to share their accumulated knowledge with their human rescuers, offering medical techniques that could save millions of lives, scientific discoveries that would advance human technology by centuries. More importantly, they were offering something that couldn't be measured in data or resources: friendship. The galaxy's first alliance between species, based not on mutual benefit, but on mutual respect. Elder Mithros himself came aboard the Thunderbolt to personally thank the humans who had saved his people. The old scholar's forearms trembled with emotion as he spoke. "Admiral Hayes, your species has given us the most precious gift possible, the chance to continue existing. But more than that, you have shown us that the universe still contains beings who will fight for what is right, even when it gains them nothing." Hayes clasped the alien's hands in the traditional human gesture of respect. "Elder, sometimes doing the right thing is its own reward. Your people's knowledge and wisdom are treasures that belong to the entire galaxy. We couldn't let them be destroyed." As the human fleet prepared to depart Cathara space, Hayes looked back at the crystal cities that gleamed once again in the light of their twin suns. Libraries full of ancient wisdom, schools full of eager students, laboratories where brilliant minds worked to unlock the secrets of creation rather than destruction. The galaxy was a little brighter because these people still lived. The universe was a little more hopeful because someone had chosen to answer when the innocent cried out for help. And somewhere in space, on worlds that had not yet heard the news, tyrants and conquerors were about to learn a new truth. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and they would not stand idly while the weak were devoured by the strong. The age of human intervention had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.